Hi guys, so welcome to this introduction to data science video where we will be talking about a different data type this time. In the last video slash tutorial, we talked about strings. We spoke about the join method. We talked about string concatenation and all. So if you want to see, if you want to check that video out, just check out the YouTube channel. Look at the playlists, and you will see you'll see those videos there. Right. So in this YouTube channel, what we do is we are taking one step, one object at a time, learning Python. And now we'll be talking about a data type. And this data type is a numeric data type. Now Python has built-in numeric data types, and these numeric data types are int, floats, and complex, and we'll be talking about them. So first thing I'm going to document is, I'll document this, call this numeric data types. Right, so I'll use the markdown here and make it visible and readable. Excellent. So now, as we all know, Python deals in objects, and these objects are passed into variables. And variables are containers that hold data types, right? And then Python goes on to, you have to bend the rules, the Python rules, in order to abstract real-world problems to it. So now we are looking at creating numeric data types and talking about them, right? So for Python, we have three built-in numeric types, and these include int, which you can also you can use a short form for integer. Then we have float, still the same as a float, right? Let me use this as a small letter, so this becomes the float itself, right? Then eventually we have complex. We're going to talk about all this now, but we're going to start off with integer, right? Basically integers are more or less whole numbers, right? So you assign a variable, you assign an integer to a variable, and that variable is having a data type that has a whole number, right? And it's simple. Again, just like we have been talking about, we create a variable and we call this variable num. We can also call it number, right? We can also call it number one. We're trying to make it intuitive, right? And inside of it, I'll just simply put the number 10 inside, right? And so what I have done now is I have assigned a value of type int to a variable, a variable 10, to a variable number underscore one. Pretty simple, right? And I run this, and so if I print this, use the built-in print function, and I put it in this, what I have is 10. Now for us to know that this is a number or a type, a numeric type, we use the type function, or we can also call it the type class, but let's just use it as the type function here. We use the type function number one to tell what this is. So you can see that it's an integer, it's a whole number, and it's different from basically it's different from a float, and we'll be talking about floats in the next video. Now, just like we have mentioned earlier on, there are many methods. There are lots of methods you can use, on an int, and for us to figure that out, we are going to use the dir function and we put the number inside of it. And then when we do that, we're just going to again overlook the dunder methods, right? And then we are going to look at this ones. So you can see these are the things you can do to them. You can do all this to, you can do all this. These are function, these are methods that you can perform. So here I'm going to do this to say int methods, right? And then underneath I'll just simply paste all this here, and then I'll move this, I'll change this to a markdown so they all, you see, they all look all cool. Okay, well, let me just edit this and remove this, right? And yes, but again, we will not be going into a lot of this stuff, but we'll be talking about them as we proceed. But you get to see that ints have methods, and these methods are used to manipulate whichever data or whatever the data you put inside your variable. Now, one last thing is we will talk about another way of creating an integer is we can use the int function, right? Again, if I create say number underscore 2, and inside I have 10, and now you can see that I put the 10 in between two quotes, and so that tells us that this is a string. So if I run this and I come over here and I use the type function to check number 2, it tells me it's a string. Now, since we have a string, we can convert the string to, and now I call the same number here, and then and I say I put the assignment operator, and then I use int, which is the int function, and I put number 2 here. We know that number 2 here is the is the string, right? See it over here. And so we have this here. So when I run this, and then I use again the type function to confirm, we see that number 2 is now an int, right? So I mean, that's basically that. You can see that you know, you can see that it's pretty simple. Have an integer is a whole number, entirely different from a float. And in the next video we're going to talk about the float, right? And for this method, as we proceed, we'll from time to time talk about them, but for now we just want to show what an integer is, one object at a time. So yeah, take your time, watch this video, get to understand what it is to create a variable, and the variable data type is a numeric data type, and here is an int, right? Like the video, share with folks who are trying to start up in Python. Again, the Python we're learning here is the Python for data science, and we take it one Python object at a time.